this might end up looking dumb. This was tonight's movie, and I mean that literally this time. It wasn't a later disc that actually represents a movie that came before it. It's The Wolfman was tonight's movie, and I will say things about it. But first, I will say things about the other things that we watched. For instance, 2 Treehouse of Horror episodes of The Simpsons. The one that features the parody of The Shining, and the other one, which is the one where Homer becomes 3D. He walks through his wall and he becomes 3D. And they're both great. And I get a lot more of the references now, especially to The Shining. And we watched the Buffy the Vampire Slayer movie that came out before the Buffy the Vampire Slayer series, which, as everyone knows, is inferior to the series, but still has its moments, and it's a lot of fun. And it's got people like Stephen Root and Hilary Swank, and Christy Swanson is the Buffy, and Paul Rubens plays the vampire with the most personality. Just making sure I got don't leave anyone out. That warrants, because it is fun. And let's see. David Arquette and Donald Sutherland is the Watcher. But yes, Christy Swanson is Buffy. Paul Rubens is the main reason to see it. So that's fun. And before we watched The Wolfman, we watched Alvin and the Chipmunks Meet the Wolfman. And it wasn't as good as Alvin and the Chipmunks Meet Frankenstein. It had its moments. It had a couple of good songs. But mostly it was just kind of weird. But I'm not, the target audience for the Chipmunks. So maybe it works perfectly for them. But when they met Frankenstein, it worked pretty well for me. So whatever. But The Wolfman was Lon Chaney Jr.'s first appearance in the Universal classic monster movies series universe, whatever. And he would go on to make many more. And the welcoming committee to welcome him there included Bela Lugosi as a character named Bela, and Claude Rains playing Lon Chaney Jr.'s character's father. I was about to say Lon Chaney Jr.'s father, but Lon Chaney Jr.'s father is an actual person called Lon Chaney. That it would have been confusing because people know who his father was. His father was one of the fathers of Universal monster movies because he starred as the Phantom of the Opera in the silent film version of Phantom of the Opera from 20 years before, 20 years before this, for one thing, and 20 years before the version of Phantom of the Opera that I'm going to watch on Saturday. But I'm also going to watch the silent version on Saturday and the musical version. But this is not about Phantom of the Opera. Everything comes back to Phantom of the Opera for me, but this is not about Phantom of the Opera. I had, at one point, the DVD of the remake of this with Anthony Hopkins and Benicio del Toro, and I didn't end up keeping it. I ended up selling it. But having, and I had seen this previously, but it wasn't one that stuck with me, and it might not stick with me this time either that much. It wasn't my favorite of these films, but seeing it, knowing that movie, I think that if I had more of appreciation for this movie before seeing that movie, I might have appreciated that movie more, because what I didn't get that, the reason Claude Rains is in this movie, and that the character he plays warranted Claude Rains playing him, is because the character of Larry Talbot's father, Sir John Talbot, it's almost as much about him as it is about Larry Talbot, the Wolfman, because it's about the Wolfman's father, who doesn't know he's a werewolf or thinks he's a crazy person werewolf, who only thinks he's a werewolf. It's almost as much about Sir John Talbot worrying about his wayward son. And I don't know, apparently, and this is how the remake begins as well, There's something about Larry Talbot returning to the family estate after many years away because his older brother died, I guess. So now he's got to get used to the idea of the estate because he's going to inherit it, something like that, which wasn't explored to the extent that I actually internalized that detail of the plot. But knowing how key the father character is in this, and if you know the remake, you know why, it would make the way the remake plays out more interesting. So there's that. The makeup and is of course iconic. You can see it right here. They do the transformation with the feet and ankles, which I guess was easier. I guess at the end he transforms back and it's on his face, but I think it cuts away every so often. Also during the transformation, the Larry Talbot is wearing an undershirt and light-colored pants. Then he transforms, and you see his legs transform, and then he's out and about as the Wolfman. You see him walk away from the legs, from the knees down. You see him walk away, and then he's out and about in the woods as the Wolfman, and he's got dark pants and a dark button-down shirt. And since he's a humanoid Wolfman, it's not entirely outside of the realm of possibility that he changed, but that's probably, if I looked this movie up on IMDb and I looked for the trivia or goofs, that would probably be labeled as a continuity error. But it's fine. It's fun to see and to notice Bela Lugosi briefly in this movie. And I think that the combination of Bela Lugosi, Lon Chaney Jr., and Claude Rains is one that will appear again and again. I'm pretty sure. Let's see. I won't try to guess at the casts of the next couple of movies, but the next one is The Ghost of Frankenstein, and I think at least two of those people are in The Ghost of Frankenstein, but I'm not sure. So they're kind of the key core. I don't know if Karloff appears again. I think that he got injured on one of the Frankenstein movies, and I don't know exactly what. I don't know for sure whether or not if he's not in any of the remaining movies, but he did have a long career, I think, as a TV host, starting around this time. I'm not an expert, but in fact I shouldn't have even said that. But it's partially true, at least, what I said. Let's see, anything else about the Wolfman? Don't know. The Chipmunks version, they only really met the Wolfman toward the end. I mean, they were aware that he existed. They didn't necessarily know that he was a Wolfman. But it was one of those things where I like the characters introduced as Larry Talbot, and of course he's going to be the Wolfman, and he's got the cane from the movie. But as a kid, kids probably don't know that Larry Talbot means he's a werewolf. So that's fun. And the Chipettes were in that one too. I guess I have more to say about the Chipmunks Meet the Wolfman than about the Wolfman. The Chipettes weren't given much interest to do except for Eleanor. Yeah. So I guess that's all that I have to say on this one. Oh, the famous poem, even a man who's pure of heart and says his prayers by night may become a wolf when the wolfbane blooms and the autumn moon is bright. Something like that. That poem, which I've always assumed is an ancient folkloric incantation or whatever about mythical werewolves, it was actually written by, I believe, the director. Let me just quickly look at that. Look that up. And maybe it was written by the writer. Yes. Looks like it was, and it would have been written by the writer. This one, here's an interesting tidbit. This one, I know that The Mummy isn't based on a single thing, but it's based on strands of things coming together, which is ironic for The Mummy. based on bits of fabric put together. This and Creature from the Black Lagoon were based on perhaps stories and myths. The idea of a werewolf, the idea of a fishman creature, but no popular culture. The Mummy has its Arthur Conan Doyle related things, its Edgar Allan Poe related things. This doesn't, and Creature from the Black Lagoon doesn't. So that's interesting. And interesting that the writer who fled Nazi Germany, as so many writers of entertainments did, he came up with this thing and people thought that it was an ancient rhyme, which an ancient rhyme wouldn't be in English necessarily. It's the same way that I felt, and many of my castmates, the first musical I did in college was Cabaret, and we thought that Tomorrow Belongs to Me, speaking of Nazis, was an actual Nazi anthem stuck into the middle of the musical. And it was just really, really well-written song by Kander and Ebb that was very convincing because it was so creepy. So anyway, that's that. I've already said what's tomorrow, and it's worth a look. So have a lovely midnight.